Come to your breath. Just notice the physical body. That one's the easiest to notice. And then drop one layer down to the subtle body, your energy body, the one that certainly is affected by the physical, but it's hard to point to. It's feeling, energy level, mood. And draw your palms together in front of your heart center. One soft Om, inhale, exhale, cleansing breath. And a soft Om. And release. So however you're sitting cross-legged. The left fingertips stretch the arm up and over, left fingertips on the floor, right arm up and over. And then as though you're pulling like a stretchy band of some sort, pull back and then stretch it out. Pull back and stretch it out. Pull it back and stretch it out and back and out. And then push off with your left hand, come back up to seated. Pause a moment. Right fingertips down. Again, stretch it out, pull it back, stretch it out, pull it back, stretch it out, pull it back, get out, and pull it back. Inhale, come to sitting. Change the cross of your legs where you're the second favorite side, even if it's wider out or diamond, that can work as well. And then with the hands on the rib cage, the bottom ribs, just move the ribs around in a circle. The head and shoulders move a little bit, the hips move a little bit, but focus just on moving the ribs around in a circle. It's what belly dancers do to warm up. And then reverse. And release. Then move it forward and back, forward and back. Just, it's like you're sliding it forward. Not so much up and down. That's what I started to do at first, but it's just moving it back and forward. To use the core a little bit, engage it as you pull it back particularly. And then release, shake off. Right, let's do a couple of rounds of Kapalabhati just because we're all by ourselves and I don't have to worry about aerosols. So we'll do regular Kapalabhati without the alternate nostril and then do 2 rounds with alternate where we're moving the fingers back and forth. Inhale to about 2/3 and then begin. Focus just on the exhale, a sharp exhale. The inhale takes care of itself. Inhale. Exhale, tilt forward slightly, hands on the earth, blow the air out. pull the belly button up and in as you sit up, and then sip the air in as you're ready. Breathe normally. Alternate nostril is where your right hand usually, but if you're left-handed, the left hand works fine. So whatever works for you. Because I'm mirroring you, I'll use my right hand, looks like my left. Inhale, exhale. We'll exhale out the right first. The right is the sun side and for the morning. If you were doing this at night, they suggest, the sort of teachings suggest exhaling out the moon side, the left side first. Inhale. And then right, close, left, close. Here's where you may need to grab a tissue because this does enhance the river of phlegm. The next time you exhale out the right, release. Inhale big. Exhale, blow it all out as you bow forward slightly. Inhale on the sit up as the exhale stays out, and then sip the air in. And you can go as fast as you want. There is a real sort of a power ujjayi breath that I don't usually teach. It goes more of a, and it's very powerful, but it also is a little bit dizzying. So we'll do it a moderate speed, whatever is comfortable for you. Begin for the last round again. Inhale to about 2/3 and begin. Out the right, inhale, fully blow it out. Sit up and slowly sip the air in. Breathe normally. All right. Oh, stretch the legs out. So for this one, we'll lie on the back with the legs in an open diamond. You don't need to pull them way up, but in an open diamond. And arms at the side. So imagine your pelvis, the pelvic bowl, the front of it, that if, and you can switch it to whatever you want, but if the pubic bone is 12, like 12 o'clock, and the belly button is 6 o'clock, then either side, as is bones, the bones on the side are 3 and 9 o'clock. So to begin, just a very gentle tilt towards 12 and then tilt towards 6. So you'll notice, keep doing it easily, keep the breath just flowing nice and easy, no holding, back and forth, 12 and 6. And you'll notice this is a form of cat-cow. Now, as you do this, just notice, is your head also kind of naturally moving? Not like you have to think about it, but if the head's not moving, then there's an answer to part of the question of the neck and shoulders being tight. Because if the hips are moving and the head and neck are dissociated, then you'll start to find tension in there. The muscles start to not understand and they crank up. So what happens is it's almost like your nose is doing a little 12 and 6, but if you start to think about it, then you'll stop with the hips and pay attention to the head. And it's just the hips. Just think about relaxing the neck and shoulders and let the head just move as it is. Now make this little 12 and 6 dip smaller. So it's just a tiny little rock. Keep making it smaller and maybe a little faster, and you'll notice the head saying yes along with it until it becomes a little rocking, little back and forth, where you're just rocking and the head is going with it. You're not having to move the head. If it's relaxed, the nose will just do the little yes up and down naturally. So Eileen, if you don't get any of this, just come back on and say, well, this isn't working, will help. And then release, stretch both legs out long. Just breathe. Then bring the diamond shape up again. Again, the heels aren't uncomfortably close to the hips, just to where the knees are in a butterfly. Now, just rock, do a slow, very deliberate rock from side to side, from 3 to 9 and back. And this becomes more of like moving. As we make it smaller, it feels more like rocking. And you might notice that the head naturally goes to the other side. So your nose is also going 3 to 6, but when you're over at 3, it's going 6. And here again, if you think about it, it'll make you crazy. But if you just do it naturally and try not to tense, when I feel that I tense the neck, then I start going the same way as my hips. But if I'm just relaxed, now it will go opposite. Now begin to make that a little smaller to where you're just rocking side to side, and the head will do just a tiny little movement. Don't even think about which direction it's going, but it's just rocking side to side as well. A little slow, and then release. Stretch the legs out long. Come back up. And now this is more, we'll start with the more slow, deliberate, and then it will become more towards rocking. So tilt towards the pubic bone, towards 12. Come around to your right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Now you're 6 o'clock, your back waist is smashed into the ground. Then roll to the other side, 6, 7, 8, over to 9, 10, 11, back to 12. Keep doing that, reaching. It's like you're energetically reaching for each number. And what I notice is that if I'm having some problems either in the hips, like if my SI joint's hurting or my neck is hurting, there are times when I'll cut across, like directly from 3 to 6, like I can't seem to find 4 and 5. That's usually part of my problem. And then sometimes it's 7 and 8 that I'm just diagonally cutting across, as opposed to having it feel like it's really a circle. For me, it tends to be on the bottom side from 3 over to 9, but yours, you may feel it more at the top of the clock from 9 across 12 back down to 3. And just notice, kind of reach for it here. So you're using a little more muscle energy in the slow, bigger one. Don't worry about the head, but it's actually doing its own little circle. Again, whoops. So see, I start to talk and I just skipped at that point from 3 to 6. I have to work a bit to get 4 and 5. And yours may be different. And then begin to make that a little smaller and more like a little rocking. So the knees are moving a tiny bit, like the knees are drawing their own little circle. And then you'll notice, if you relax the neck and shoulders, the nose starts to make its own little circle. And it's small, it's like a little rocking motion. not using much muscle action. You have to use something, but it's not as much as the beginning. And then pause, stretch the legs out. And now we'll go counterclockwise. So start it slow, go from 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and you'll notice each time, sometimes you have the same problem, like if I'm still cutting from 6 to 3, or it might shift. I might then notice that it's not as complete an arc or a curve on a different place when I reverse the circle. We do this about 6, 7 times, slow. Let the head and neck relax. And then again to smaller. So you're doing it's a smaller clock face. In the beginning, my clock face was more like the school clock, I felt like, and now it's more like a bedside clock in the days when we used to have analog clocks. I now make it smaller. Ooh, I'm still having trouble with, the 3 to 6 opened up a bit. And the head and neck, making its own little circle. The nose is making its own circle without you having to do anything. If you're relaxed, it will just, the head will bobble. And then release. Stretch it out. And then the last one, I think you've done this before, but if you flex and point your feet, just flex and point the feet, you'll notice that the whole body will move with it. The head will do a yes if you flex and point the feet, and make it kind of fast. So it's not a slow jerk, but it's a bounce more, a rocking. And the head and neck are soft. The head's doing a yes, nose is up and down. And you do this fairly fast and small. It's like, it's really, it's rocking. So rocking is very comforting. It also helps to shake out some tension and release. Oh, I haven't done that in a while. I love it. I just feel tingly. And bend your knees, roll over, and come up. So, Eileen, how's that feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Does that feel, yeah, I just feel it's just a really nice thing to do to yourself first thing in the morning, or if you've been working and sitting at the desk. Take your ball and begin to work out the hands. Then release. Turn around and come to hands and knees. Pad your knees as you wish. And I noticed that after this, cat-cow is so much more fluid after I've done the little, it's called it's a form of the Feldenkrais pelvic clock. I think you can even download an audio file. I've downloaded some free, or at least a script on the pelvic clock. You might get a little bit more technically accurate, but I find that's the one that works for me. Make this bigger, smaller as you wish, but my back, my spine just feels so much more open. And then unfurl into downward facing dog. Walk the dog, make it easy. And on your next exhale, walk your hands back to your back of the mat and making an easy forward bend. Elbows can be on the thighs with the back long, And just a little bend, little stretch, little bend, little stretch. And the next time you're straight or almost straight, hands on your hips, shrug your shoulders, lift the head of the arm bones, and push down as you rise up. Oh, and release. Shed my outer layer here. All right, step to the top. Well, wait, no stepping. Have your strap near you, but work the feet out. Do a quick just pressing out, rolling out. Ow. And then change sides, but just pause in the middle and notice the difference. And then press the other one. Ooh. Let's scribble and rinse. Rub it out. And release. Find your strap or stretchy band. And stand well. Legs are strong, inner thighs back, tailbone down. Bottom ribs, keep them knitted down and slightly back, sideways lying back. And then if the hands can become either just maybe hit the top of the head or the back of the head without throwing the head forward. So pull down, stretch up, and pull the lat bar down. Stretch up, pull it down, pull the shoulder blades. You'll notice the inside edge, the edges of the scapula shoulder blades start to move closer together when you pull down, and they move slightly apart when you move up. That's a good thing. We want the shoulder blades to be able to slide on the back, move around and about, and then release. Oh. All right, step to the top of your mat. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, bow forward. Oh, forward bends. Oh. Inhale, prepare, bend your knees, place your fingertips on either side and reach your right leg back, straight leg lunge. Use blocks as you wish, light on the fingertips, and bend straight in the straighten bend. Or if you're working with your balance, play with just maybe a fingernail down on the block or the floor, and then maybe resting on your sacrum back and forth. Oh my gosh. And release, step back, downward facing dog. Oh, stretch, big stretch. Work the heels. The heels are not on, if the heels are on the floor, then you want to walk your feet back a bit. But stretch the heels towards the floor to get a good stretch across the back of the calves. And then step your right foot forward, straight leg lunge. Blocks or no blocks, light on the fingertips, just a fingernail, and bend, straighten, bend. Or play with balance. And then step back, downward facing dog. Lower your knees to the floor And being in your dog table, which means a little bit unstable. So the knees are not right under the hips, but a little bit behind and the hands a little bit in front. So we'll do this, it's kind of a triceps dip in a way, push up. I was working with one of my teachers from Maryland. I've been taking from her on Zoom, Maria Hamburger, and I just love her classes. But so if you hug like you're hugging an imaginary block between your elbows, so don't let them pop out, and just press the elbows down and then straighten. Press down. So the hips stay over, mostly over the knees or back towards the knees. Just down and straighten. That's all you're doing. Claw the floor. Oh, I'm feeling this from last night. Hug the elbows. The elbows want to pop out, but you keep pressing them towards each other. A few more. You do enough of these. It seems like a wimpy push-up, but I'm telling you, really hug into the midline. It will protect the shoulder joint and strengthen all the muscles around the arms. That's enough of that. All right. Whew. All right, so we'll lie on the tummy, but before you do that, let me explain a little bit how that's going to go. So you're on your tummy. So imagine that I'm on my stomach. Here's the floor. I'll lift the head's down, and you'll shrug the shoulders and lift the head of the arm bones for now, and the head will stay on the floor. But with the palms facing the ceiling, lift up and then flex the hands, pull them up like you're going to do regular cobra, but they don't touch the floor. They just skim along. There's no weight on them. They might touch, but they just skim along. And then you stretch out. And so it'll be doing like breaststroke, but the palms are up, then they flex and they pull up. You have to make sure you have room in front of you here. All right, so on this one, stretch your legs long behind you. Click all 10 toenails down, lengthen the tailbone and pull the belly button up into the spine. Stretch the arms, fingertips towards the feet, palms up. So first, shrug your shoulders towards your ears, lift the head of the arm bones off, and then maybe the head just clears the floor. You don't need to lift it up, but just enough to engage the muscles in the back. Tailbone is long, so flex the palms, the wrist, pull the hands up under like you're doing regular cobra, then slide them out. Stretch a long breaststroke, come back, palms up, lift up, flex the wrist, pull them up into a cobra, and stretch them out. Breaststroke. Oh, I'm feeling this. Palms up, flex the wrist, pull them in, and stretch it out. Oh, with the breath. As you exhale, pull the hands through, and then inhale a big breaststroke. Couple more. And then release. Rest your head, bend your knees, wiggle them back. All right, plant your hands, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Step your left foot forward, straight leg lunge. Blocks are out of the way now because I moved them for the other one. Pull the blocks in line. Wiggle the back toes, your right toes back and a little over to the right. The left foot comes towards the left edge of the mat, not totally mat width apart, but getting a little wider than hip width. Lower the back knee, keep the back toes tucked, pad the back knee as you wish. Elbows come to the blocks, so you can relax and soften between the shoulder blades. Still keep a little scissor action, because if you don't keep the scissor action, I notice what happens is I start to hang in the back hip. That means the top of the femur is pushing forward. So you want to pull the top of the thigh bone back, and the best way to do that is the inner thighs move back and apart, in, back, and apart. Then the tailbone lengthens to keep that strength. So another way to think of that, you're doing a little bit of scissoring action. The back knee is trying to drag forward slightly. Then you play here on the edge. The front foot, if you need a little release, if you're feeling some pinging in the knee at all, just turn the front toes out a tiny bit and see what happens there. Not a lot, but just enough to give yourself a little bit of freedom there. Then the inner front knee, the left knee, hugs into the midline. It may or may not hug your outer left shoulder, but it's moving in that direction. If this is feeling too easy, drop the blocks a notch. And I notice as soon as I start to go down a little deeper and a little deeper, I haven't done this in a while, so I may not be able to get down as far as I normally do. But what happens is I'll start to roll to the outside edge of the front foot. And that's certainly a type of stretch, but we're not doing that right now. So you keep hugging the knee into the midline. Maybe drop it down, but you just come to the level of heat and noise you can tolerate, still not hanging in the back hip. So pulling the back knee forward. So you're lifting the inner thighs back a bit towards the ceiling. Okay, so now what you'll do wherever you are, whatever level you've come to, you can come up a notch if you want to. Now we will allow the inner left edge of the foot to peel off the floor, but with resistance, like it's got some sticky stuff on it and it doesn't want to pull up. You'll walk your hands out and come off to sort of like almost a big, wide, super wide pigeon. But the thing about this with your knees, because your knee's not pinched up here, this might be a little more accessible to you, but I feel this directly into the hip. So ask questions if that doesn't make sense, but it's in this sort of weird, wacky, not quite pigeon, open lungy thing. That's the literal translation. Oh. And walk back to center. Oh. Stretch back. Either do a child's pose or a dog pose, whatever your body's asking for. Oh. And then lower the knees on the right leg up. So first one, wiggle the left foot and knee off to the left a little bit, and the right foot off to the right. And again, you can turn the right foot out a tiny bit. So it doesn't have to be totally parallel if that gives you a little freedom in the hip and or the knee. Then start high, even if you will go lower, scissor the legs a bit, pull the back knee forward. So it's a seesaw principle. If I push the back knee back, then the head of the femur pops forward, and that's not going to be happy hips land. So if you pull the knee forward, the top of the femur, the hip pulls back a bit, that's fine. Then you can release in the front hip a little more without releasing the back hip in too much. Hug the inside of the right knee towards the shoulder, just to keep it lined up. If that's too easy and the back is long, you're not feeling like you're going to pop open, you can drop it down a bit. Maybe another notch, maybe wherever you are, stay where you can sustain it and still breathe. So hips, we've given the hips a lot of time to get tight. So we have to give them a little bit of time to open up. They won't do it right away just because we say so. All right, so in this next one then, the foot stays where it is. I'm going to move my block so you can see. So this is where my foot was and a little bit turned out. Now I'm gonna like pull it off, like there's something sticky holding the inner edges of the feet to the floor, but I'm pulling away. I'm just on the knife edge. Keep the ankle strong, don't let it collapse. Walk the hands over either inside or outside, wherever it is, to where you can support yourself. And then I actually can, my right arm is on the inside, kind of in the, almost in the crook of the knee, and the right elbow can then push, the inner right thigh away from the foot. Oh, it's a big open pigeony thing. Oh. And release. Oops. Come back, downward facing dog or child's pose. Oh. And come to release. Find your strap again. Oh, I love these flowers that Yvonne gave me. They're so beautiful. All right, roll all the way on your back. Have a block near you and your strap near you. Just enjoy the back a bit. Notice how it's sitting. All right, so take the block, and you can play with whether it's at its wider angle or the narrow, and it's between the thighs. Walk the feet out, a little outside of the hips, and inner rotate and sort of pigeon toe the feet. So the knees are more towards, they probably would touch if you didn't have the block between them. So squeeze the block and take the block towards the floor energetically. So rather than push it forward, when you squeeze the block and take the block towards the floor, towards the back body, then you'll get a little more curve in the low back. And then exhale, release the hips. So you're doing a cat-cow again. Exhale, exhale, you arch the back, it's a cow where the squeeze the block and take it towards your heels. Inhale, you release and do a rounding of the back. Exhale, again, squeeze the block. On the exhale, you're not, on the inhale where you're rounding the back, you're not squeezing the block. It's just enough to keep it between the legs. You don't have to do anything intense. The work comes a little bit more when you exhale and arch the back by taking the sits bones and the block towards the floor. So it's a little more therapeutic. What's happening, if you're interested, is that by, again, seesaw principle, the feet are out a little wider, the knees are closer together, and that will help bring the top of the thigh bones out farther apart as well, which the head of the femur, we want to do that. And then the next time you're in the slightly arched position where the sits bones are moving more towards the heels and the block is moving more towards the heels, and you've got a little low back curve, keep that and drop the belly button towards the spine without flattening the low back curve. Squeeze the block. Drop the belly button to the spine. So this is some core work without getting into your back, without making the back do the work. And release. Move the block out. All right. Now with the, take the block now and it's between the knees. And come into your fallen over chair where thigh bones are straight up and down, shins are parallel, feet are flexed. Hands in full beach babe, just you can interlace them or not behind the head, but kind of relaxed. and relax the head back down. Now, the sits bones tilt towards the floor, so your low back is slightly off the floor, and then drop your belly button towards the spine. Call it my spine sandwich. So the low back muscles are pulling, back waist muscles are pushing up, and the front of the abdomen is pulling down, making a nice supported hug on the spine. Shoulder blades on the back, neck, keep the neck soft. So here, with the head heavy, think about lifting the heart. So the head might get light, but if you do this with the neck, you're just going to go back with neck and shoulder problems. So you're not moving that much. It's like you're trying to lift from here. There's a string right from the sternum lifting up. And maybe the head lifts up, but it's relaxing into your hands. So there's no work in the neck. And just breathe here. Exhale, belly button to spine, spine lifts up towards the belly button, heart lifts. Inhale, soften. Exhale, a little engagement. And notice if you're starting to pull it. So sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I feel it right in these front neck muscles. And that's not where you want to feel it. So that stays really soft, just in the core. And then release. Feet on the ground, and keep the block where it is, and just relax. And maybe rock side to side a little bit. Release anything that got tight. And now come back up to the fallen over chair. The low back is slightly arching away, but the belly button, the belly button becomes like think of the airbag in the belly. For me, that's a little bit bigger range, which I like, than just the belly button. So the airbag of the belly is expanding and pushing into the front of the spine to keep it from crunching. So while you're arching a little bit, you don't want to pinch it. Now, the arms can be out in T position, and just roll your weight over to your left hip. So the right hip is, you could slide a piece of paper under there. The right side of your sacrum is off the floor. I'm starting to shake here. Keep the feet flexed. Pull the belly button, the airbag of the belly, into the spine as the back waist keeps trying to pull away from the floor. It might be an energetic pull. It may be touching the floor, but it's trying to lift up. Whew. Inhale back to center, rest. Oh, I'm feeling that classroom yesterday. It was intense. All right, come back up. So the squeeze of the block is not intense, otherwise you will shake a lot. It's just enough to keep it from falling out. Roll down your weight to your right bum. The left sacrum, back of your hip is off the floor. The right back waistline will come closer to the floor, but see if you can lift it as much as possible. And then the airbag fills up and moves back. So the airbag's inflating back towards the spine. The belly feels a little more engaged. Woo! Go ahead and shake. I know I am. And release. Let go of the block. Open the knees out in a butterfly. And just pause. Find your strap. Bring the knees back up. Put the strap around the bottom of the right foot. And slide the hands down the strap so your elbows and your upper arms are on the floor, and you can push into the elbows, lift your shoulder blades a bit, snuggle them in together, and put the head of the arm bones back down. Low back curve is still engaged, belly button towards the spine. And then just open, outer rotate, inner rotate. It's like you're just turning the femur, the thigh bone, in the hip socket, in and out. So this is a small movement, but really important. And if there's a lack of movement there, that tells you something about where things are a bit tight. Keep the neck and shoulders shoulders, the jaw relaxed. So we can move that into the fray so quickly, and then we wonder why it's tense. I know I do. All right. Take both straps and turn a bit at an angle. Both straps, if your right foot is up and you have the strap around the right foot, both straps into your left hand. The right arm goes out in a T position. So what we'll do is we'll rock over, and you're twisting towards the upper body towards the right, the lower body to the left. Inhale back up to center. Exhale back down to the side, twist. Inhale back up to center. So the knee is coming with the bent knee, the left knee is coming with you each time. It's rolling over and it's coming up. Use the core to pull you up rather than, so you want the whole core. Pull the belly up and in and pull up as you come up. Just back and forth. And I find it helpful with the left leg, even though it doesn't seem to be doing a lot. If I really work the left leg to help bring me up, then I'm not straining as much, meaning I'm engaging the muscles and pushing the left foot into the floor as I come up. Oh. And then release, stretch both legs long, stretch the arms overhead. Notice if there's a difference. Oh. Bend the knees. Right foot on the floor, left foot is lassoed. Slide the hands down the strap. So elbows come to the floor, then lift your shoulder blades, snuggle them under you. Your low back curves slightly off the floor and drop the airbag back in towards the spine. So you're not really using the hands a lot here, just enough so the leg muscles don't have to work so much to stay up. And then just inner rotate, outer rotate. Work it in the hip socket. And you might notice that you have more or less freedom in this joint than the other joint. Just gives you some feedback of like, that one's even, as I affectionately call my sides, tight and tighter. So you just notice it may mean that you go back and do the tighter side again. Just going to work the synovial fluid in the joint, back and forth. No weight bearing, so we're not stressing the joint, just warming it, getting it fluid. And then both straps in the right hand. And again, you slide down enough that the right elbow's on the floor. Otherwise, if you're reaching up, then you're starting to use more shoulder than we want here. So this is just a guide, it's not keeping us. The left arm's out in a shoulder height to help support you. Then exhale, the legs go over to the right, the chest turns towards the left. Inhale, use the legs to help you up, not so much the strap. Exhale, over. I mean, the strap can help a bit, but you really don't, and then inhale up. Do this with your breath, just an easy lowering and an easy lifting, using the core as you lift the legs. So sometimes doing dynamic movement, especially when there's some tight or achiness, I just find kind of a sweet variation to the longer holding of standing poses. I didn't do standing poses, as you may have noticed. They're also good for some hip opening, but I'm working a little more therapeutically today. A couple more. And release. Place both feet in the strap. Again, stretch it out, slide your hands down, and widen the legs out as far as they go. And at this point, most of us, the hands are at the edge of the strap, unless you have a really short strap, and then they've long since left the strap. All right, get your low back curved back. Press up from the core of the pelvis out through the soles of the feet. And exhale, push into the strap away, so you're pushing the legs away from each other. Inhale, just soften and release. Exhale, push out and start to take the heels out first rather than the toes. See if you can push the heels a little faster than the outer heel, a little faster than the baby toe side. And push it out. So this is strengthening muscles in the hip joint, but also helping to open. The inner thighs can sometimes be tight. And then release. Keep the strap for a moment. Place it around the ankles and come into a bridge mat. And again, the strap is just there as a container, and then snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. And so I have a little bit of looseness here as I pull up, and on the inhale, lift up just a little bit, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, and drop the inner thighs down, lengthen the tailbone. Airbag fills the back of the front of the spine. And then inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower slightly. Inhale, lift up. Exhale. Inhale, lift. So it's a tiny little lift, a tiny little lowering, a tiny little lift, tiny lower. Small movements, maybe going a little deeper each time, a little higher, or working at the point where you know the body needs to just work. But a little pulse in, a little pulse out. And release. So you can do happy baby either with the strap, where it's around and you're pulling down, or you can use both hands on the outside, whatever makes you the happiest baby you can be. And here we completely lose the low back curve, and then see what happens if you try to get it back. Oh, it's an energetic thing. So my back waist is still flat on the floor, but I'm not. Here's where I'm collapsed. The sits bones are moving up. But if I think about moving the sits bones towards the floor, and then pull the feet in and release. Shake off a little windshield wiper with the legs. And then in Uppanasana, it's like making yourself child's pose on your back. So you can either hold under your knees, under the back of the thighs, or on the top of the shins. And then exhale, you can pull up into a little ball. Inhale, release. So if it increases the neck and shoulder tension, don't lift the head. Exhale, little ball. What you'll do is just pull the knees in, the thighs in a little closer. Whether you're behind, if it hurts to hold the top of the knees, hold the back of the knees. Feels good there too. And just pull it into the chest. So you're pulling your knees closer to your head rather than the head going towards the knees. Oh, that feels nice. Just stretching the low back. And release. Do anything you want to do before final relaxation. Any sort of move. You can set yourself up into supported fish on the blocks if you wish, over a blanket roll, the chest, or regular, good old basic Shavasana works every time. Begin to deepen your breath. Stretch your arms, your legs, moving the way your body wants to move, if it wants to move. And of course, you could stay in Shavasana a little longer, if you wish. Otherwise, roll over and just rest on your side for a few moments. It's always good, I find, to remind myself that I don't have to pop right up. I can take a moment or two. The world will not come to an end if I rest one more second longer. And then using the strength of your arms, come to a seated position. And sit well. Scan your body, mind, spirit, the physical body, the subtle body. Palms together in front of the heart center. Namaste.